my internet. Good. Okay.
Good. Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DLA Ignite. With me today is Ali Fischer.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Tim.
And Ali is joining us from New York. Yeah.
Yes.
And by the powers of the internet. Before we go any further, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about things to do with you've been laid off and what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an empowerment chat. But before we go any further, where can people get hold of you, Ali?
LinkedIn is the best place. So I'm Alison Fischer, 1 L and a C. So Alison Fischer.
Yes.
I'm always on LinkedIn and I'm always in my messages. So sending me a private message is the best way to reach me or connect.
Yeah. And you all are very active on social as well.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Now, the way I actually came up, how I found you was that you appeared in an article. I can't remember the name of where the article was.
Oh, CNBC.
CNBC, and the title of the article was, "But Mummy, I thought you were important."
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so give us some background of that and your journey so far.
Sure. So I was laid off a couple months ago from my very long-standing career at a particular company.
You'd worked there 15 years or something?
Yeah, over 15 years. Our clients were largely in the airline space. So understandably, when the airlines were hit by COVID, so was my business. And they had to make some tough decisions. And unfortunately, I was one of them. So I had to come home and have that really tough conversation with my girls who are 12 and 16. And I posted about it, maybe within a couple of days after having been laid off. And the post really took off. So a journalist from CNBC reached out to me and asked if she could interview me and do an article on, I think, the human side of what it's like to be laid off and how you have to share that with your children and those sort of personal discussions, maybe some of the lifestyle changes that you have to make. And, what does that look like for the future, which I think is what we're going to talk about today. So I'm really excited.
And the thing is that, we talked to prepare for this. And the great thing is that, you are so positive. You're actually able to talk about the fact that you got laid off, which is an interesting thing. But the thing is that you've bounced back, and we went through and actually came up with this structure. Though you didn't actually sit down and think that I need a structure, you kind of you kind of sat there and went, well, I've done this, and I've done this, and done this, and done this, and we actually came up with a structure that about the way that you've created your own resilience and your own strength and courage around that.
Oh, I think I lost you.
No, I'm still here. No, I'm still here.
You froze for a second. I think I missed you. If you asked me a question, I missed it.
Oh, right. Okay. So really, we're talking about this resilience.
Yes.
So you've done a whole bunch of things in that time since you've been laid off.
Yep.
So the first thing I think you said you did was you actually took a look at your life.
Yeah. It's you get cut off at the knees. I don't, even if you maybe think that it's coming and you sort of understand that your business is going to be hit, whether you're furloughed or laid off, or COVID or not COVID related, it's a bit of a shock to your system. And you have to start asking yourself some tough questions. Who am I? What do I love? What's the space that I want to be in the future? Now is the chance. So I'm prospecting. That's like the biggest thing. I've been doing sort of two things. So I've been coaching, which I absolutely love to do. Coaching women, coaching survivors of abuse, coaching students, and trying to help them gain confidence as they navigate some challenges in their life. And I've been prospecting companies, companies that align with my values and my purpose and have leadership that I align with, to see what that looks like going forward for me.
Because I think one of the things that you described was the fact that you needed to take a couple of days out, because I think
Oh, for sure.
there's a certain amount of decompression that you need to go through, because especially if you're
Yeah.
working for a company for 15 years,
Yeah.
you're into a particular set of patterns, and you're going to go through a whole bunch of things, which is really understandable, like anger, why me,
Mhm.
and all of those things, and if only this, and all of those things. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you are in that situation and you need to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first week I did nothing but, I would say, homework.
Right.
So I filed unemployment. I got health insurance for my girls. I tried to source health insurance for me. I had never been laid off. So it's a new world, but you can't do everything at once. It's an impossibility to expect that you're going to compress either your entire future or your entire past into a handful of days after you've given news like that. I mean, you really, like you had said, you need to sort of cut yourself a break and just take sort of a mental break. And
I think sitting in front of the TV with a big tub of ice cream is okay.
it would have been fine. I did not do that, but yes,
but
cut yourself a break.
And
Yeah.
I think you do need to cut yourself some slack, because I think
Yeah.
you'll be under a lot of pressure, and
Yeah.
I'm giving people, we're both giving people permission that the
Yes.
first week you get laid off,
You should not be jumping on
No.
day 2 into a job search. I mean,
Yeah.
your head is not in that space.
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, you need a little time to reflect on what you did. And I loved my clients, I loved my team, but I would say the environment was toxic. So it makes you shift. It makes you assess and say, I'm given a beautiful opportunity now to reinvent my life to some extent, right? I mean, this is the rest of my life as it's unfolding in front of me. And it's not easy by any means. It's not easy to get an executive level job. I mean, I'm not sitting here, nor are you, saying, "Oh, be relaxed and everything is great." I mean, you have to remain optimistic. If you don't have that, then you'll go crazy. I mean, you have to keep focus on things that you can control, which is why the first week I really just did administrative things like unemployment and health insurance, and then you slowly sort of start to get into your resume and looking at possible companies and saying, well, if I were to go out on my own, what does that look like for me? And you start to explore, but you have to take time. You have to take time. And the first couple of weeks were that time for me. The last maybe 6 weeks or so, I've been very busy, but the first couple of weeks were, me reassessing, asking some tough questions.
So what did you do to actually relook at your life and go through this process of, in effect, you feel that you've gone through a process of reinvention?
So I had been coaching women, specifically women entrepreneurs and women in the domestic violence space, for several years after I had started to share my personal story a couple years back. But I had this quote unquote 9-to-5 job. So I didn't have the possibility to really explore what that might look like. So that was one of the very first things I did. I said, is it possible for me pragmatically to do that, to do what I love full time? And I think probably after about a couple of months, the clock starts to run down. There's a reality to that too, with being unemployed. I'm a single parent, sole breadwinner. So, it's me and my girls. I don't have, options. So
and I think it's worth pointing out, you haven't got a trust fund or anything like that.
No,
you
no.
have bills and you need to pay them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like most people out there. You can't find yourself for a year. I mean, that's not realistic either, right? So, but you do have to ask, what do I absolutely love? What are my values? What do I love? And what do I want to do? Where do I see myself? And if that is a matter of going back into a corporate position, which I will gladly do for the right company. And that's why I'm sort of taking my time trying to figure out, what does that company profile look like? Is it the leadership? Is it their values? Is it their mission? There are so many things that I love outside of client success, which is my job title. I mean, we talked a little bit before too. I mean, if you're so tied to your job title, then when you have job loss, you feel like someone has died. Lucky for me, I didn't feel that connection to my title. And the article talked a little bit about that also. That what does that look like? I'm not my job. My value is not wrapped up in my work. So I love the client success account management aspect of what I do, but what type of company do I want to do it for? I love women empowerment and youth development and mental wellness. I speak a lot about mental wellness. If I could find a company that does all of those things and I can go to work every day, excuse me, and follow that mission and that passion while using my achievements for the past 15, 20 years, it's a fantastic mix. It's like all the puzzle pieces come together. So it's putting those things together, figuring out where you really add value so you can speak to it.
And I think it's really important that when we talked, about finding, your passion, your purpose, and your values, because the last thing you want is to go back into another job, and feel and it being toxic. Businesses now, the way that they're run, should be about creating a culture which is good for the employees. I know there's probably a slight people go, well, I don't care about that now because there's so many people I can pick and choose from. They can like it or lump it, but most places that want to work will actually create that. And I think it's important, as you say, that you work out what that is and then work out the companies that you could possibly work for.
Yes, because I believe that purpose-driven companies want to hire purpose-driven employees. So if you believe in something deeply, no matter what that is, and you find a company that also believes in that, isn't it easier to have a conversation with whether it's talent acquisition or whether it's the supervisor in your department about the company and what you could add, not just your achievements, because you are more than just the achievements on your resume. It's, I am a complete person. I am not just these like statistical tick marks on my resume. I have other things in life that I have accomplished, other things that I've overcome, and things that I feel very passionate about. And I mean, leadership is one of them. I mean, that's a huge umbrella, obviously. But the customer experience and the employee experience and how companies treat their employees is extremely important to me. And it's something I've been talking about on LinkedIn for years. So to try to find a company that breathes that is really important to me.
So some of the things that you've been doing as well as looking for work is you've been taking classes.
So
training.
I would say, I mean, everybody needs to jump on Coursera, for instance. It's very inexpensive, and you can take leadership courses, you can take, coding courses. I mean, just plug in whatever it is that interests you, even if it's outside of your field. I try to divvy up my day in a way where I feel satisfied is not the right word, but I want to feel accomplished and happy at the end of the day. And if I spent 5 hours prospecting companies, I might only apply to one job a day. And that's because it takes time to find the company, learn about them, communicate, network. There's a lot to be done with that. I'm not blindly applying to jobs upon jobs. So I spend a portion of my day on that. I always try to do a call. Like when you and I had our call, that was my call for the day. Like I try to, find public speaking events where I can speak on things that I love. And I might have, introductory call to talk about that. I might have an actual speaking event. I might do a podcast. I take a course. There's all these things that I do to fill up my day that's outside of job searching, because you need to still feel human.
But
You
that's
can't be like a robot, you
yeah,
know?
but that's also about the enrichment of Alison, though, isn't it?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
about because you are being given a gift of time, and now is an opportunity for you to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And if you say, well, I actually quite like stamp collecting, we'll do a course on it then.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, you'll be a better person and you'll be given a life skill.
Yeah.
If stamp collecting is what you want to do, then that's important, because you'll know that you'll come out of this thing and you'll be a better stamp collector.
Yeah. I didn't have the opportunity to do this before, when you're sort of sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. I still tried to do Zoom calls and I still did podcasts, but to try to schedule those things, it was like from 12 to 1 or 1 to 2. We had a very antiquated traditional environment at my company, where, taking a call at 10 o'clock and, sort of taking an early lunch was not really welcomed. So I did a lot of things after work, whether it was nonprofit work or meetings, or I did a lot of things before work. I used the car a lot. My commuting time was used really wisely, but now I'm home. So it's, what better an opportunity to do all of the things that you might have been thinking about for all of those years. You can't waste the time.
No. So you talk about networking. So explain to me what you see as networking.
So LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform. I do believe that some companies still see it as a job posting site, I suppose, or where people are just there searching for their next opportunity. But it really is a way to brand yourself and who you are, what your message is, and then network with like-minded people. So whether you're searching for a job or whether you're just trying to connect and learn and be more enlightened and engaged, it's a phenomenal place. I mean, not a lot of people like to post, understandably. They don't feel comfortable writing, or maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing about themselves. But you can find articles that you like and post those and then engage with other like-minded people. You don't have to post original content. You don't have to put yourself out there on a video, for instance. There's a lot of other ways that you can put yourself out there and then connect with companies that really drive you.
And when you say connect with companies, what do you mean?
So even prior to being unemployed, I would find companies that I really believed in, and then you follow company pages. Right. You can engage. I mean, some companies are very active and some companies are not active, but if you find a company that's active, you can engage in their company page. Then right on LinkedIn, it says employees that work here. You click on them, you see what they're doing, how they're engaging with others. Again, not everybody's active on the platform. You can connect with them, you can engage with them. It makes you smarter. I think it's very different than an Instagram, for instance. And some people do a phenomenal job at engaging and posting really deep content on Instagram. But I think there's something for everybody on LinkedIn.
I think if you've got that growth mindset where you go, if your belief is that if I invest in 3 minutes in reading this article, I will probably come out of it a better person. The 5 things that you need to ask people when you first meet them, and you go read it and you go, actually that was quite rubbish, but actually one of the questions was actually quite good, and I've actually used one on you today. So it's like, that's when it says always ask people what their journey is, so actually you get something out of it, and
it helped me craft my narrative. It helped me craft my personal story. Without LinkedIn, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and look at other people's profiles and see how they've crafted their profiles. Come and look at my profile. That's slightly different.
Yeah, there is something for everybody. There's somebody that you can emulate if you're just getting started. It gives you some ideas as to how to jumpstart your own adventure. And then, the networking begins. You just have to put yourself out there. It is a little hard for some people to send messages, personalized messages, or engage. But I would say do it in the comments first. That's the easiest way to do, is and comment on other people's content.
Yeah, it's a bit like, you go to a networking event and there's lots of people there you don't know, and you go, oh, here we go.
Kind of like stand in a corner.
Yeah. And what do you do?
Yeah.
And I just usually go up to somebody who's standing there by themselves and say, you know, so,
Right.
so why are you standing by yourself then? No, I usually
Yeah.
say, you know, something just opening, like, you know, where you come from, or whatever.
Yeah.
And really, it's just the same on LinkedIn. It's just that, you know, someone posts something, read the article. If you read the article and you like it, let's say, I liked it. If you didn't like it, well, so you didn't like it.
Yeah. It's all conversation starters.
It's conversation.
Really,
you know, if it's like, if you come to one and say, I don't agree with you, go, well, fine. But it's about having that conversation.
Yeah. And you don't have to agree with people.
No.
I mean, I think it's a misnomer, because I mean, traditionally, maybe 95% of the content that's going to be the comments will probably be people that maybe agree with you because they're drawn to that for some reason, and they're going to comment because they agree. But I've had people. Luckily, I've been pretty lucky. People have been respectful of me. But yeah, people disagree. I mean,
and the thing about LinkedIn is it's different from maybe Facebook, where Facebook is where you can end up watching people actually having rows.
Yeah.
Whereas on LinkedIn, I think it's far more about similar to the conversation you might have in an office, because it's deemed as being more professional.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing in terms of looking for work? Have you got any things that you can share around that?
So like I mentioned, I've been prospecting companies. That's been my biggest thing, is I've been more on the offense, I suppose. And I think LinkedIn is great because it leads you down this rabbit hole. I guess you find one company that you love in industry that you love. Take mental wellness, for instance, and then it shows you a bunch of other pages for similar companies. You go to those companies, you go to Google, you look them up, you go to their about section, you go to their vision, you learn everything you can, their blogs, their articles. And then you say, wow, this company sounds phenomenal. Sometimes there's a job posting, sometimes there's not, but don't let it deter you if there's not a job posting. You can still reach out to the people that work at the company to connect and engage with them and take it from there. I've been lucky enough to have conversations with people who didn't have job postings, at least that I knew about, but you get on the phone with them and they're like, oh, we're expanding this department or whatever, and we have something that might be coming up in the next month or two, and let's talk about it. I mean, that's the ideal situation, right? That's what you want to happen, is that a job that hasn't been posted, that you're sort of the first person to the table.
I mean, there's some fact that I think I was told when I was in short trousers, about 85% of jobs are never advertised. And that's what you really need to do, isn't it? You get
and that's why it's hard and it's daunting. I mean, I remember the first month trying to figure out, like, how am I going to possibly do this? I mean, I am well aware that as a C-level, as they say, that I'm not going to get a job on a job posting. It's going to be based on networking or who I know or conversations that you have or, chance. I mean, it's not that I don't have to have the achievements and be able to speak to what I know and have educated conversations and prove that I am the right person for the job, but you have to get in front of them. And that's very daunting. I mean, for me as well, it's a scary thing.
And I think, I believe there's an awful amount of serendipity going on, which is that, if you're looking at a company, connect to the people that probably have the right roles or the roles that matter for you, because there may be this serendipity moment where they look at your, obviously you need to write up your profile a bit, but then they look at you and go, actually, I think this might be the right person for the job. Right. And the fact that if they can get you direct, they don't have to pay recruitment consultant fees, or they don't have to go through the aggro of advertising the thing.
There are employee incentives too sometimes to bring somebody on that you might not know about.
Exactly. So they're actually, so there's an incentive for people to actually take you direct rather than get out, find the companies, and then connect to the people and create a dialogue. One of the things that you did talk about, which I really loved, and you said something, but I'm going to go back to it in a moment. Sure. But one of the things you talked about is about finding your own story.
Yeah.
So how did you find your own story?
So probably, maybe 10 or more years ago, when I got out of my prior abusive relationship,
Mm.
you start to reflect. I mean, you start to have some really tough conversations with yourself. And at that point, it was more about regret. Like, I just lost 10 years of my life. You start to have financial regrets, emotional regrets, time regrets. And you realize, I mean, no matter what stage you're at in your career or with your family, with whatever, that maybe this is not where you want to be, that you're worth more, that you deserve more. And it starts to sort of bubble up, that you are not just getting up every morning, getting dressed, going to work, raising your kids, that you are this well-rounded human, no matter what your story is, good, bad, or ugly, great family, horrible family, toxicity. I mean, it does not matter, that you have something to share. And I believe that storytelling, and I talk to 20 somethings about this because I wish that someone, I don't even know if storytelling was a big thing
I
back then.
didn't. No.
I don't think it was, but I mean, I wish that I had the benefit of knowing that. I probably would have made better decisions. Again, I am who I am now because of all of those, bits and pieces of the course of my life. But I talk to a lot of pre and post grad students and even young professionals who don't think that they're anything special. They have no concept that they are anything beyond their academic career, their diploma, their sports. They just need to graduate and get a job. And I'm like, but you are something more. Your values are based in something, your upbringing, things that have happened to you over the course of your life. And as you start to piece those together, it makes you realize who you are at the deepest levels of who you are. And that is the most important. It is not your job title. It is not all the extraneous fluff. It is who you are deep down inside. And unless you understand your story and where you've come from, it's hard to piece those things together.
You said to me, people need to be empowered to own your own story. And I love that. I think that's
you have to, because it's people sometimes are embarrassed. I mean, especially when you're in a toxic relationship, like I mentioned. Again, it just happens to be a space that I sort of work in, but I speak with a lot of women who are in denial, and they would almost rather live in denial for the next 20 years of their life than make a change. And that's why I say you have to be empowered to own it, to forgive yourself for whatever past discretions you've made, for the job you stayed in for too long, for the marriage you stayed in for too long, for the maybe bad decisions you made as a parent. I mean, whatever it is, it's never too late to change that narrative. And I have had things that have happened to me, some not so good things that have happened to me over the course of my life. They have shaped me, but they have not defined me. Talking about my story is not cathartic for me, because I don't live in those moments. I use them as a way to share with others that you can have things that happen and still be successful. And I'm not talking financially successful. Success is a definition that is very unique to every single person.
Yes.
But yes, you have to be empowered to say, this is me. I own whatever decisions I've made, the good and the bad, and they have done something for me that has brought me to today. And be mindful and aware of why you make those decisions and move forward and make better ones if that's where you sit.
So we've had a question from Emil. And the question is, what is your advice on the most fundamental steps to understand your own story? Really good question. I like
that. Self-awareness and forgiveness. So it's important to ask yourself some general questions. What are the things, the top 5 things that are the most valuable to me? It could be things like loyalty or friendship or family, that sort of thing. What do I love about myself today? What do I not like about myself? And then as you start to ask those questions, you'll realize why I mean, again, it's a matter of asking why, and the whys are difficult because people don't often like the answer to the whys. And then you just sort of maybe push it in the back and you're in denial. And then again, it's easier sometimes to live the way that you live, not being happy or satisfied than making changes. But if you can ask yourself those questions, how did I get to where I am today? Why did I choose the job that I chose? Why did I choose the relationship that I chose? Am I doing the best that I can as a parent? Why am I the type of parent? I'm a very specific type of mother, and I am that way to avoid the mistakes that my parents made with me intentionally. Those are very conscious decisions. I'm not sure that I knew that the first couple of years. But as I started making decisions, I'm thinking, like, why am I so adamant about doing certain things a certain way? And then you start to reflect. So I think reflection and self-awareness and asking yourself questions that maybe you don't want to ask or don't want to hear the questions to is a very good first start. I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've got any further points to that, then please ask it.
Yeah.
But my experience is I was in a particular role, and I realized I didn't fancy it anymore. And I wanted to do something else, and I happened to realize I wanted to get into social media. But it took me 3-4 years to sometimes build it out to do that.
Yeah. I mean, these are not things that happen overnight too. So cut yourself a break. You're not going to wake up one day and be like, oh, that, everything is perfectly boxed, and it doesn't happen that way either. So
and certain things come to you. I mean, the thing is that it's the more you put yourself out there, the more the serendipity things come to you. I mean, there's a lot of things that have come to me, which I feel I'm very grateful for, and I'm very lucky for. But in a way, I'm lucky. It's a bit like, was it Gary Player who said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And it's true that some of those things will come to you. And the advice that you have given, Ali, in terms of getting people to go out there and have conversations on LinkedIn, not necessarily you may be looking for a job, but just have the conversations, because
it's not even about that.
Exactly. If you're trying to, the advice I always give, if you're trying to monetize something, you're doing it wrong, because if you're trying to make money out of it, it won't happen. If you go to it with your heart rather than your head, what you'll find is something you'll go, where did that come from? And I've had so many people come to me and say, Tim, my first book, I had a meeting with a guy, and he said, why don't we write a book? And I thought, where did that, I didn't go out and ask for that. It arrived. And that's purely by being on social media and having conversations. So
I think I'm back to the storytelling question, or, how do you sort of put that together too? I think the more that you engage with others, and the more you hear other people telling their stories, the more it helps you to understand yours. And not necessarily because you're trying to emulate somebody else, but you will pick up on the cadence. You'll pick up on, maybe some things that you could relate to. Again, that's why I talk about my stories, because people can relate, and it helps them feel justified and not guilty anymore. And, a whole bunch of emotions. There are so many people out there that have walked different paths in life that could be similar to yours. And as you start to engage with them, you might realize, wow, that's something that is so similar to me. And you go to their profile, you start looking through their content, you watch their videos, and then it gives you a sense of how there are some things that this person and this, you piece them all together and you'd be surprised. You're like, wow, that sounds sort of just like me. And it's almost, it's like having a tutorial.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot that you can learn from. I mean, if people have listened this far through this podcast, it's probably because they've already found podcasts. But podcasts are a great place.
Phenomenal.
Great place to learn.
Yeah.
If you're walking the dog, or if you've got some time for yourself, then podcasts are a great place. And always be learning, I think, is the. The thing that I see that are most is people that see themselves as lifelong learners. And that is the way that you're what I love about what you've been saying, Ali, is the fact that you do realize that you've been given some time and you do have some concerns. You need to get a job, but here is an opportunity for me to build something about my life, and I'm going to be far better coming out of it than when I actually went in. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
For certain. It's a blessing. I mean, in my case, being laid off was a blessing in disguise, and a chance for me to build the life maybe that I had neglected, or, and I'm honest about that too. I made very pragmatic decisions over the past decade, some financially driven because of my situation. And I'm not apologetic about that. I mean, but now, it's a new world. So there's no reason for me not to use the time that I have wisely. The time that I never had before. I think every day, my God, I never had the time to do this sort of stuff during normal business hours. It is a phenomenal gift. Yeah.
So, Ali, it's been really insightful. It's been great talking to you. The time goes so quickly.
I know. Thank you.
It's been 35 minutes.
Oh, has it? Fantastic.
Yeah, it has. So I need to bring things to a close. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah, it's been really great having an audience. So remind people where they can get hold of you.
LinkedIn is the best place. Always there. Send me a private message. Always quick to respond, or connect with me. And if you connect with me, send me a message. It's always the best thing. So that way I know who you are and what you're about. And it's
Alison, Alison.
Alison, yeah. And it'll come up as the greater New York City area. So
and
it'll look like me, I hope, my profile picture.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's Fischer.
Yeah.
Could people spell my name wrong as well? So
I know I have it double, one L and then a C in my last name.
So please connect with her, and I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today and your story. And Christopher and Amal have thanked you as well in the chat.
Yes, I see. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for everybody watching. Have a good day. Thanks, Ali.
Have a beautiful day. Okay, bye.